Hello, dear friends. Welcome to ZENPod once again. In the studios today, I have somebody who was listed among the top 100 Wonder Women in advertising and marketing in 2021. Gives me great pleasure to welcome Raga D'silva, who has over 25 years of experience in the creative field. Raga has worked in senior positions in advertising in India and New Zealand and has been the recipient of several prestigious awards. The co founder and director of Speaking Minds, a speaker marketing agency and an international bureau, Raga is considered an expert on corporate speakers and B2B content creation. Raga is a sought after speaker on the subjects of diversity and inclusion, unconscious bias, LGBT issues, building a personal brand, and doing business in India. Her talk on Holy Cow, so you think you know India is hugely successful across international corporate companies, was much spoken about. As the South Asian ambassador for Diabetes UK and a social influencer, where she shared her personal story and views to help prevent diabetes. Raga has been on several boards over the years and was the first woman to be elected on the board of the India New Zealand Business Council. Currently, she is a trustee on the board of CRY UK and the Diversity and Inclusion Council, Sony Pictures. Raga is a mother of twins and divides her time between London, Mumbai, and New Zealand. However, she considers all three her home. Raga is a published author of Untold Lies, a book that is now available on Amazon India and the UK. A story she wrote during the lockdown, loosely adapted from her life, is being made into an international feature film by the acclaimed filmmaker Onir. If you wish to know more about Raga, please do visit her website www.ragadsilva.com. She is available on Instagram, FB, and Twitter on @totallyOutNow. Please join me in welcoming Raga to the studios where we can discuss some of the more sensitive issues openly and with a free mind. Hello, dear friends. Welcome to ZENPod once again. I have with me Raga Olga D'silva. Raga, welcome to ZENPod. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Venki. How wonderful to be here with you.
So just so that people know, Raga completed walking 51,000 steps, that 42 kilometers, as she tells me just yesterday, and I'm surprised she's even sitting with her eyes open at this podcast. So Raga, respect to you, and you're doing it for a great cause. Why don't we start by telling the audience what you did yesterday?
Thank you, Venki. It was my 51st birthday, and I'm
Wow.
very proud to be 51 because I'm never going to be 51 again, as I say. So, and every year on my birthday, I do something which is very challenging so that I put myself through a process which makes me reflect, which makes me, aware of what privileges I have. And I look at causes where people are not that privileged. And I have, climbed 100 floors over 10 days. I have done marathons. I have walked like the entire day at times to raise funds. And I've done raise funds for the children with diabetes in India. This time it was for the underprivileged children in India who don't have access to education.
Beautiful.
And I was shocked to know, Venki, through Child Rights and You, which is CRY, which I'm a trustee on the board of. I was shocked to know that children basically don't have access for something like 10 pounds, which is 1,000 rupees. For an entire year, they can be educated for only 1,000 rupees.
Sad.
And and I thought to myself, we are so privileged. We take it for granted. Even a t-shirt these days is for 1,200, 1,300 rupees. Imagine that. A cup of coffee, 2 coffees, and you've spent your 1,000 rupees. And so that's what I did, Venki. And I do this, and I'm thinking about what next. What will I do on my 52nd birthday? So if any of your audience has ideas, I think they must share it with us, shouldn't they?
Awesome. Absolutely. And I think at the end of this podcast, we will also speak about some of the good work you're doing, Raga, and how people can help you. So we'll talk about that as well. Yeah, that's one of the main reasons for this podcast as well.
Thank you, Venki.
Okay, so I think this is the first time I've taken a deviation. So now on to my trademark question. What is Raga's view on spirituality?
It's a very interesting question, and I keep thinking about it because you're not the first person to ask me.
Oh, okay.
The first person to ask me was me. I asked myself a lot, what is spirituality? See, I think spirituality is basically being connected with your own self. I know people say divine self, and divine self could mean God to so many people. But to me, I think it is about connecting to your own self. And in various stages of my life, spirituality has meant different things to me. When I was much younger, it was about me, really. And I thought that if I looked after myself, I had gained spirituality. I would sit and talk to people about, discourses from the Ramayana, the Mahabharata,
Oh,
the Vedas, and all the spiritual gurus that we can think about. But I think I live that life now, finally. To
oh,
me, I have connected with my, I think, a part of my divine self. When
wow.
you have a purpose and a meaning in life, and you lead a meaningful life by choice, that is a true form of spirituality. Practicing kindness, practicing compassion, practicing empathy. To me, that is finding your true purpose, and that to me is divinity, and that to me is spirituality. I'm flawed, very, very, very flawed, and to me,
Hmm,
that is also spirituality.
awesome. Awesome. That's a very deep answer, very very deep, and we will talk about spirituality more on the in the podcast, Raga. I've always believed some of you people who have achieved so much, and I call them trailblazers, genuinely, have a very high spiritual quotient, and it's just intriguing and interesting to know how each of you use it differently. Uh, it doesn't matter whether you are in music or you're in sports or you are in in social entrepreneurship or you are an explorer, but it's just interesting to know, like, for you maybe it comes naturally, for somebody else they probably shut themselves for 5 minutes and bring it out, for the third person it's picking up a veena or a sitar, and that's really nice. Good. Let's
Venki,
talk.
may I interrupt here? Sorry,
Of
may I
course.
interrupt here? Because
Yes.
to me, you spoke about success. You said you successful people, and
Yes.
to me, I question that because, and please don't mind me because I am
No,
like this.
no.
Because to me, success is a real, relative definition. I don't know how you gauge that I was successful. For instance, I don't know your
Can I tell
barometer
you?
for me.
Can I tell you?
Yes, please.
And I'll tell you why you're successful. Because you are impacting people's life, Raga.
Wonderful.
And that is for me one of the main criterias for success.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that and defining that, because to me, a lot of people I've met in my life will talk about success because from your title, job title,
Oh,
from, or from the cars you own,
I
from
get you.
your, basically from the property, the houses that you own, or
Yeah,
house
yeah.
that you own.
No, 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 no.
And to me, I just think that's just a ridiculous way of defining success.
Absolutely.
It is so temporary. What you just talked about, impacting lives,
Yeah,
that is permanent.
yeah. Just think about it. Yesterday's action of yours is going to probably put, I don't know how much you have collected, and I know you hit your target, 50, 100, 200 people, kids through school for a year. What are we talking? I mean, if this is not success, then what is, right?
True. And every
It's
now, yeah, I think we need to reflect, Venkat. That's a very good point. And I'm so glad you brought this up. And I'm so glad that you define success the way I define success as well. It's not materialistic, it is
no,
not monetary, it is spiritual success.
absolutely, absolutely. Good, good. Now that we've agreed on that, let us talk about the evolution of raga. Could you please let us in on it?
Venki, how do you define evolution of a person? It's an evolution of spirit, isn't it? And spirit,
Yes, yes.
spirit has played a huge role in my life, I must say.
Yeah, yeah.
So, it's interesting. I was actually Christian Olga. My mother
Okay,
actually named me Olga. I'm from a minority Catholic
okay,
family,
okay.
and I come from Mangalore. My family comes from
Oh,
Mangalore,
okay, okay.
and they named me Olga. And I just didn't like that name for all my life. For some reason, I didn't identify with that name.
Uh-huh.
You know of people in this world who don't identify with their genders or their bodies. I
Correct,
didn't
correct.
identify with my name. Every time somebody's called out to me, I would think they're calling out to somebody else.
Oh my
I
God.
would hardly ever respond. And that Olga I found was very different to the Raga. I gave myself this name, by the way,
Oh,
Raga,
okay, okay.
about 15 years ago. And it is almost like a parallel between Olga, who died. And I think we spoke about it briefly on a chat the other day about when somebody calls me Olga, it's a dead name. That person is dead. That person does not exist. I call myself Raga Olga D'silva for those people who have known me for 35 years of my life. So they know I'm the same person, not the same person in the spiritual sense
No,
of,
but I get you.
yeah, that I can identify. But the Raga is such a different person. It's almost like when I changed my name, I became the person I wanted to be, or I thought
Oh,
I was.
really?
Olga was somebody that everybody else wanted me to be. And
Wow.
the evolution was actually almost overnight. I mean, we call it evolution, means it happens slowly. But in
Yes.
my case, it's almost like I changed the skin and I changed into this person. And that's when I started living the truth. That's when I started living the person that I wanted to be and I thought I was. And I created this person that I want to see, I want to leave behind.
Awesome. So that leads me to the next question. You have been living your truth. Tell us about it.
Well, I think I've potentially lived a truth all my life in
Awesome.
being who I was, right?
Yes.
But there
Yes.
was a part of me, Venki, and thank you for having these conversations on your podcast, which is very important.
Yeah.
About 18 years ago, or now nearly 20 years ago, I was married,
Mhm.
and we have twins from that. I have twins from that marriage. One now
Nice.
20, my son and a daughter, and they're now 23.
Wow.
And
Nice.
thank you. And 20 years ago, my marriage had broken down. We
Mhm.
were in New
Sorry.
Zealand at that time, and things were not working out. No, my ex-husband and I are the best of friends, just so that you know. So it always works out if you make it
Yes.
work, you know.
Mm.
But at that time, things were not working out, and we decided to move on with our lives. We had outgrown each other in a manner,
Okay.
and I'd always known that there was something about me that I felt attracted to women and that I had not explored that part of me because of social conditioning.
Right.
You are made to believe something because in a society that
Correct.
I come from a very traditional, conservative, Mangalorean
Mm.
Indian background.
Mm.
I grew up in a very free, liberal home, but at the same time, there are certain things that you cannot change about how
Correct.
you're brought up and where you're brought up. And that conditioning was also around me. So I'd never thought that two women could have a relationship, two men could have a relationship. I was very homophobic as well, to be honest,
Okay.
not only
Okay.
towards others, but mostly
Right.
towards myself
Right.
because of
Okay.
that, thinking how shameful, how terrible, how can you be like this?
Yeah.
You know? So I lived that life myself for
Mhm.
me.
Mhm.
And it's only later that I realized that, you know, maybe I have to be true to myself. And in exploring my sexual identity, I allowed myself, or let me say, I gave myself permission to go there. And when I gave myself permission to go there, it was natural that the truth came out, that I
Okay.
lived my own truth.
Okay.
But there is another part to this story, that because of what I went through, because internally I had accepted myself,
Mhm.
externally the society had not accepted me because they saw me as a married woman who had children, who was from India, who came from with certain baggages. So they couldn't accept that this person could now be with another person of the same gender. So they ridiculed and abused me quite a bit. And I went through a really bad time. Let's say I came to a point where I wouldn't have been in this world. Many, many times I decided to end it all. It was very difficult. So I hid myself. I hid that truth. And in hiding it, I still lived my truth, but I didn't allow that truth to be exposed. I've only last year, so 2019 September, when my book Untold Lies was published,
Mm.
that's when the truth came out. So one is living your truth, Venki, and one is exposing your truth to the world. Two different things.
This is so, you've got me thinking, Raga. This is so wonderful. And I want to keep this as a conversation really with you. A lot of us actually live with lies, whether it's something as stupid as age. I, for one, like to hide my age. I like to believe I'm young. So, whether it's your salary, whether it's your position, whether it's your marital status, from something as insignificant as that to, what we do or what we own or what we have achieved. And we actually, and which is very surprising. While like you, I've grown up in a pretty, I wouldn't say very traditional, but conservative family as well. We are told to, grow up speaking the truth and don't lie and respect elders. But when we actually grow up, the society probably doesn't permit us to live by those rules, isn't it?
Yeah. Can I respond to this in two ways? One is
Yes.
why do we hide our truth, or why do we lie?
Yeah.
Right? You talked about age, you talked about your
Yeah.
working title, achievements, material things. We lie because we know that people or society puts a value on us
Correct.
based on that. Now,
Correct.
if you didn't know how old I was, what age I was, what age would you think I was, right?
Yeah.
That's something.
Correct.
The moment I say to people I'm 51 and I did a 51,000 steps walk, they say to me, "Are you mad? Are you crazy? At your
Yeah.
age, you
Why
should be
would you?
sitting at home. Why would you want to do that?" So they put their limiting beliefs on you.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
So,
Correct.
so that is the most
True.
biggest
And
biggest
that's well,
reason,
well said. Well said. Yeah.
and that is the biggest reason why we lie or why we hide our truth. One is what will log kya kahenge is the biggest
Absolutely.
disease we have. Log kya kahenge, okay? That is one part of it. The second part of it is where you're talking about living this life where we are, I don't know, we are subject, we are, people look at us all the time, people are constantly observing, and people are forming their judgment, right? I don't want people to form judgments about me. It doesn't make me comfortable. And you see what happens, parents, I mean, I'm sure, like what you just described, we tell our children, speak the truth always, don't be scared. But let a child come to you and say, "Mama, today I did this. I went and stole one pen from my friend."
Finished.
Then you see the bashing you will get,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Absolutely.
Then why will you tell the truth,
Yeah.
right? A person comes out and says to the person, "I came out and I told my mother I think I have to explore my sexuality." What did she
Oh
do?
my God.
Oh my God, it was all about, "I am cursed. You brought this on my
Yeah. Yeah.
family
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
scandal." So
Abs-
everything becomes so much about that
Interesting.
person that we actually, in our own Indian families, one person will say, "Speak the truth." And the next minute they're telling the child, "Don't tell her that your father hit me
Yeah.
last night."
Yeah. 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 Correct.
So
Correct.
you're
Absolutely.
so you're giving these mixed messages constantly. So why will I speak the truth? I have been in theory told to speak the truth, but by action, I have been told, make sure that you don't speak the truth. You always lie.
And I'm really glad we're having this discussion because as you were speaking to me, and I was just thinking, yeah, we human beings. I mean, while I understand we like to be appreciated and acknowledged, I think somewhere it's more, I don't know, for want of a better word, a narcissistic behavior for wanting to probably tell people I am good. It's what social media fans as well. But I don't want people to know that I lost my job. I don't want people to know that my hair is falling, right? And the answer is, so I just came out, like I told you, I just came out of the COVID unfortunate scenario of the last 14, 15 days. And I don't think too many people miss me, right? And that's the reality of life. I was joking with my guys this morning. I said, guys, I'm sure none of you missed me. And if somebody else had come today, you would have been fine. And we laughed it off. But the reality is, that's life, isn't it, Raga?
It's
All
so
of us
true.
live that. It's probably only our very near and dear ones who will actually miss you.
Sure, we are self-absorbed.
Yeah.
A very classic example is going to the gym. For many many years
Okay.
ago, I had gained a lot of weight
Okay.
suddenly in over 3 years, and I decided I was going to go to the gym. And I had diabetes about 8 9 years ago, and I was going to start working out so and shed all this extra
Okay.
weight. I started going to the gym, and I swear I used to be so awkward going to the gym. I used to think everybody's looking at me, everybody's making comments about me, until one friend said to me, "Itna, don't be so self-absorbed.
Itna bhi.
Everybody is only thinking about themselves. They're probably thinking the same thing." you know so we have to we this is
Yeah.
where the whole
True.
thing is. We are so, like you said, I was off social media for 3 months because my partner was unwell. There were few people who kept messaging me saying
Correct.
that,
Correct.
"Kahan ho, what happened to you? Are you okay? I hope everything is okay." But mostly I was forgotten. We are only big in our own minds, nobody else's.
Very true. Very true. Very true. Very true. And the next conversation I want to have is about the duality of life. And I love the way you say it. So please enlighten us, Raga.
We speak about truth and lie, for instance. That's a duality of life. We are constantly living two lives. We have two sides to us. Maybe some people have 10 sides to them, multiple personalities. God bless them. But typically, life is dual, right? We have one, and it shouldn't be, but it is. We have one face for the world and one face for our family or for ourselves. We have one way we behave in front of the public, and the other way we behave in our own intimate surrounding. We have so many instances where we speak one kind of conversation. I will have a dialogue with you, maybe next minute have a completely opposite dialogue with somebody else.
Yeah.
So we are faced with duality of life. We have constantly made to think right or wrong. I really think there is no right or wrong. Like somebody has said, Paulo Coelho or someone has said, what is the truth? It's your truth, it's my truth, and it's the
Yeah.
truth, the real truth, right? So it is all perspectives. So duality to me, and I've lived a dual life for most of my life, but what is duality? Duality is being maybe torn between two things constantly, being pulled towards two things constantly, or being, living two lives constantly. And we live it. Most of us live it. Even if I say today, Venki, right now we should just live one single life, where is the fun? Because we always like to have that. We live on danger. i
Yeah.
love i love living on the edge. So but then the other cute duality of my life is that I have twins who are, I got gifted with twins, and I have a son and a daughter. That's also part of my duality. you know I've had a male partner for years, and then I have a female partner for years, and that's also duality if you look at it. That. So to me is that we should be kind to ourselves. We should stop putting ourselves under so much pressure that this is right, this is wrong. It's all okay. You live your truth, you live your life. Whatever that person is, make sure that person has strong values. Even my bad side has to be has to be good.
Interesting. Interesting. 2019, your book Untold Lies. Tell us more. And tell us where it's available and where can people buy it.
Sure. See, Untold Lies is my first book. I'm authoring a second book as well. Untold Lies, I created a concept called storyomes, when stories become poems. So what I did, I experimented. Everything that I do, Venki, I try and do something, an experiment, because I don't care that I have 1,000, 100,000 followers. Even one person buys it, even if it is my own family, I'd be happy. It's like always that. So storyomes is, it's Untold Lies has got 9 stories from my life.
Okay.
So it's a story of a little girl. I look at that from a little girl's lens, saying how did that little girl get impacted over her life? What things happened to her? What experiences she had that made her who she is today? Men, women, children. My youngest reader is 9 years old.
Oh.
They've all, yeah, you will not believe, they've come to me and they've come back and they have loved the book and they've said they can relate to it. Even a 9-year-old, they have cried in the book, and they have laughed in the book, because this book is a serious book. It is a journey about, like, my father sadly passed away when I was just 6 years old. But that meant that we had to, thank you, but that meant that we had to go through a lot of struggles in life.
Yeah.
That meant that I went through days of no food, and hunger. So I know what hunger is. I know what is going to school and not having your full uniform and get beaten up by somebody because they don't know the circumstances. I know what it is to be, having relationships that are dysfunctional, and you allow that to happen because you don't know any better. You've not been exposed to a kind life. You've been exposed to violence at home. So when you grow up, you think that is how life should be. So that book talks about that, and it talks about a lot of poetry. So my stories are poetries, are also stories. It's available on Amazon. It's available worldwide, and it was among the top books in 2019 and early 2020 until lockdown happened.
Nice.
And I'm fortunate I've had very good reviews to it.
Beautiful.
But Venki, what happened after that book was the most interesting bit.
Tell me.
So when that book got unveiled by Dr. Shashi Tharoor, so Dr. Shashi Tharoor launching that book itself became a big. So that wonderful man, when he does anything, it brings in headlines. So I was lucky, people kind of like say, oh, Shashi Tharoor must be a good book. So that kind of helped. But what happened is that the media took up this story in India, and I had hundreds of people basically suddenly wanting to hear this story. I had, yeah. And so your story, Brute India, Humans of Bombay, they started talking. They wanted the narrative. They wanted to tell people that you could be a certain age and it's never too late to live your truth. That you need courage, and courage is the only ingredient you need to live that truth, basically. So that became popular. I was on shows like Barkha Dutsvi, the women marquee annual event,
Nice.
And so that kind of opened up a whole plethora of conversations where people started talking about being gay, being, from the LGBT community, talking about age versus allyship, saying, oh, you can be a certain age. I would like to be an ally. How do I support you? The young India totally embraced me. Older people my age started saying that, oh, you know what? Thank you for telling us that this is all okay. That if my child came out to me, that I would be okay.
Nice.
So lots of conversations opened.
Nice.
To date, Venki, I have not been trolled even once. And that is something that I can't get over. I still wait for someone to come and throw a chappal at me, to be
Yeah, saying
honest.
lousy, or yeah, how can you say
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Wow. And on the same book, Raga, have you had an opportunity to interact with the Generation Y?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I said. The younger gen. You
Good.
talk about, the
Yeah,
younger
yeah, yeah,
generation.
yeah. I'm
Yeah,
talking about the
Z,
college,
Z,
university
the
students.
Z,
Yeah.
the Y. Yeah. So absolutely, my biggest fans. If you look at which
And
I
you
get
must, according to me, because they are the.
Yeah, I know. My biggest fan following are 19, 20, 21-year olds. You will not believe how many fan messages I get, how many stories I get from these people saying thanks to
Beautiful.
me.
Beautiful.
And to me, that is the
Yeah,
impact. I love it.
absolutely.
When I
That's
go to
nice.
colleges, pre-COVID, I went to Jaipur, Jharkhand, these kind
Oh,
of places.
nice, nice. Yes.
I was invited Kolkata, and I still understand, but Jharkhand,
Yeah.
Jaipur, 800,000 people standing up and celebrating the story.
Awesome.
Young people, that to me is celebrating, the
Awesome.
future.
Awesome. That's beautiful. And yeah, because I was going to suggest that, and I'm glad you're doing it. Maybe you should, because that's one of my sweet spots as well. I love engaging with the Generation Y, because I genuinely believe two things. One is, at the end of every conversation with them, I have learned more. And number two, unlike some of us, they are so absorbent of new ideas. They are wanting to change or bring about a change. We may or may not like them for a lot of reasons, but they are the people who can probably, and we have not done a good job with Mother Nature, so they are probably somebody who can do that, so I've always been very inspired by them. So I was actually going to tell you, why don't you do a whirlwind tour of about 50 colleges, and talk to them. And I'm glad you're doing it. I'm so happy to hear that.
No, I'm very open. I do get a lot of
Uh-huh.
requests. Just on Sunday, on my birthday, I did, Nicola and I, my partner Nicola and I, we were on a panel discussion with the King's College.
Oh,
And
London. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so you had Imperial College, London
Oh,
School of
wow.
Economics. So students, today I got to know there was about 20,000 reach already on that
Oh my God.
interview. Huge number of responses we received. And talking to the younger people,
Good, good.
and you're right, they're so open. They're so open to learning.
Yeah,
And I love interacting with them because I have 23-year-olds, as I said to
yeah,
you.
yeah.
I learn the most from them. They are the
Hey,
biggest teachers for us.
do you, and you can choose not to answer this, do you have a conversation with your twins?
Absolutely, absolutely. We
Brilliant,
are the best of friends,
brilliant,
buddies, like we say.
brilliant.
Yeah.
On this topic?
Very much so. I mean,
Awesome,
say okay,
awesome,
I'm going to ask you,
awesome.
what you spell it out on what topic? When you
No,
said
so
this topic,
for example, you spoke about duality of life. You spoke about being gay. You spoke about man falling in love, a woman falling in love with a woman. So many things. So I'm saying, do you have these what are otherwise called hard conversations even at home? Is what I'm saying.
okay. So fantastic you say that, because to us it is not hard conversation. But the children have been brought up in a family
Nice,
like ours. So these
beautiful.
are, when you would be talking about maybe astronomy to your children. In my house, this is what we talk about. We talk about duality, spiritualism. We talk about living your life, your truth.
Awesome, awesome,
This is, and
awesome,
therefore,
beautiful.
we never judge. They never, if you ever meet them, you will see they never judge, no prejudices. In fact, they tell me off if by unconsciously I
You
say
do,
something.
yeah,
I say something, because we are of a certain
yeah.
age, certain
No, but
generation.
the reason I also say this is because for you, they are the best sounding board, right? They
Yes,
represent the thousands who are out there. They are a microcosm of the King's College and the Imperial and the Bath and all of those. So that's why I asked,
correct,
and I'm glad you're
correct.
having those conversations. Yeah. So the next conversation I want to have with you is about a topic that I believe professionals and leaders struggle with, everybody wants it, but nobody wants to undergo it. Something called change. You have, it's a word and a situation. I feel it's the only word and situation which is feared by most. You seem to be adept at it, right? You are one of those people. I don't know. I don't know whether you watch Hindi movies, but there's a movie of Govinda in which he gets late for work and he brushes his teeth and changes his clothes while driving to work. So you remind me of one of those, and in a good way. And you have lived that life. Can you share with the listeners, Raga, on how do you manage change, and what is a good and a nice and a simple way of managing change?
Well, I think you have to have that kind of a soul, what I call as a gypsy soul. I have
Okay.
a gypsy soul, and I ever since I was very very little, I have had that desire to constantly do something or the other. And if it meant that it took me to places far and beyond, if it took me to education outside of India, if it took me into advertising and I changed my advertising jobs frequently, I'm a explorer, let's say. So I think
Mhm.
explorers, adventurers, gypsy souls, you put that in a box and then you talk about change is kind of, how can change not happen? So change is constant for people who are constantly seeking. That's what I feel. Now,
Nice.
change happens to all of us.
Correct.
All of us, whether we like it or not. In the morning, one day you'll find a gray hair. One day in the morning, you'll find that you can't, like, so change is happening to us. Our cells are also changing on a daily basis. But there are some of us who enjoy that change, some of us welcome that change, and some of us are adept and adapt ourselves really easily to that change. Now, what is the difference? Why? Because I also know a lot of people in my life who say, Arey, you live such a great life. How much change you've had? How do you manage, right?
Yeah.
Because I think I come from a philosophy of no limiting beliefs. Nothing stops me. I don't put barriers in my head and saying, oh, now, like for example, in 2010, I decided we were going to set up in our office in India.
Wow.
So my children were studying in New Zealand that time. Fantastic school, very happy, big, huge house, the life, fairy tale life, really, if you can imagine. I uprooted them. I said, no, let's go to India. Everything was the opposite of India because I didn't stop and say, okay, let me find a big house first in India. Let me find a big job in India. Nothing. We uprooted. We lived that life. Then, so the
Oh,
children have also become like me. We
nice.
we we think that if when change happens, wonderful things happen to you, good and
Yes.
bad.
Yes.
And when
Yes.
wonderful things happen to you, your life is richer. And we feel that we want to be that rich, and that's very important for us as a family.
So, do you believe, Raga, that change doesn't happen or not welcomed by people because of the fear?
Yeah, fear basically is the root for all our stuff, right? It's not love, unfortunately, it's fear and it's hate. So people are fearful of change because of the barriers they have. We always think, you look at women who are in bad marriages or people who are in bad marriages, for instance, they're always thinking of the fear. What will society say?
Yeah,
What will
boy.
I do? How will I look after myself? They're always waiting to be financially
Absolutely.
independent first, which is important.
Yeah, yeah,
Financial
yeah. Correct,
independence is
correct, correct,
important. I'm not
correct.
devaluing that. But the fact is that if we wait for the right things to happen, change will never happen. We will just wait.
Yeah,
So many
true.
people, I don't know, Venki, I mean, we are of a certain age now. I see so many of my friends who I've known having conversations 20 years ago, trying to leave a certain job. Your job chodna hai, I can't do this
And they're
job
still in
anymore.
the
Tell
same
me,
job.
they're still in the same job. And then they tell me, you are lucky, you
Yeah.
got these
Eh,
opportunities. No, I
no,
am not lucky. I took those risks. I
correct.
took up those opportunities.
Yeah.
I faced the consequences of those decisions and those choices. And
Yeah.
Venki, I must tell you, sorry, a few months back, I was talking to an old colleague from Lintas,
Okay.
and he said, and very interesting conversation, and he was telling me about how wonderfully well he has done, and I was very happy for him. Then he told me his salary, which was like in top,
Of
top,
course.
top
Of
digits that
course.
I can't want to say. And I sat back and I thought, yeah, mera to, it's not even 1/10 of that now, because I lead a different life.
Yeah, correct.
For a second, I had a doubt thinking, yeah, if I had stayed in that job 20 years ago,
आज
I was
मेरा हो
saying,
जाता.
hey,
Agree.
today I would have had that. I
Agree.
had
I
that.
completely agree with you.
You know. So that
बिल्कुल.
momentarily I felt that. But I said, no, I have now. New Zealand passport. I live in the UK as a permanent resident. I can go and come into India anytime. I have traveled the world. I have created something for myself. Maybe not those richness, material
True.
things that
True.
others have,
True.
but I'm happy. I'm content.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you say that, because that happens to us too. I mean, I've spent quite a lot of time in corporate life, and yeah, you do sometimes look at others and you feel, yeah, shucks, I wish I had got onto that bus. I would have owned it by now. But you are right. And irony is, the guy is probably, or the guy or the girl is probably looking at you and saying, "Shit, man, I wish I had got off the bus."
Yeah, exactly. See,
Yeah,
they're married. They're
yeah,
married to mortgages.
yeah,
They're married to
yeah,
responsibilities.
yeah, yeah,
Whereas
yeah,
I am divorced from everything.
yeah.
I'm happily divorced.
Yeah, imagine moving your two kids to India from New Zealand. Anything could have gone wrong. And I'm
Yeah,
sure things did go wrong as well, right? So, yeah,
correct, correct.
yeah. You only get to hear the successes, but you don't know what went behind them. Right? So,
Absolutely. But you don't know the risks until you take it.
yeah, completely agree. Awesome. I'm sorry we have to take a break right now as we come to the end of our conversation with Raga in the first part. In part two of our conversation, the candidness flows through and continues to run merrily like a river, where we talk about her grit and tenacity. The very interesting conversation about a film being made on Raga by the renowned film director Onir. What can we as a society do to support the LGBTQ or the allied community? What was Raga's turning point in her life? There are quite a few, and she will share them. What were some of the interesting conversations Raga has had with people once she's done delivering her talks, whether on social media or in prestigious platforms? Finally, we end our podcast with a very, very interesting rapid fire. So look out for part two of our conversation next week, and we enjoy the candid conversations with Raga and her life. Thank you.